John Dickens is a television reporter. He appears regularly on Eastwood TV's Newsfile programme. In one edition last year, he interviewed a member of the Provisional IRA, and today in the Crown Court, he is charged under the Prevention of Terrorism Act with failing to pass on information that would have helped the police to arrest or convict a terrorist. It's the first prosecution under this section of the Act, which came into force in 1976. Dickens pleads not guilty.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. James Mackenzie, Detective, Chief Superintendent, Acting Head of the Regional Crime Squad.
Chief Superintendent, do you know John Dickens?
Yes, I've known him about 4 years. He's been in touch with me and several of my officers from time to time about various investigations.
Did you have dealings with him on November the 8th?
I did. At 10 a.m. on the 8th of November, I gave a press conference at Fulchester Police Headquarters, which Dickens attended, and afterwards I gave him a short interview on the television. The subject of the press conference was an incident the previous afternoon, Saturday the 7th of November. At 4:15 that afternoon, there had been an explosion in a bus shelter at Fulchester Town Centre, the bus terminus there. A woman was fatally injured, and 2 children were seriously hurt. Permanently disabled, in fact. A little boy lost a hand. He was 7 years of age. At the press conference the following day, I told Dickens and his colleagues that the explosion had been caused by a device left hidden in a sports bag. It had all the marks of a terrorist bomb attack by the IRA. And I went on to issue names, photographs and descriptions of 2 men we were anxious to interview in connection with the offence.
May the witness be shown Exhibit 1, please. Is that the press release, together with your photographs?
It is, yes.
There are copies for the jury, my lord. These men are named as Gerard Patrick Finneran and Colin Shipway, also known as Callum O'Shea. How did you arrive at these 2 as your prime suspects?
We had information from our colleagues in Belfast and in London. Both the suspects were known to the police and their movements were watched to a certain extent. We also had witnesses who had seen the man leave the bag in the bus station, and they were able to describe Finneran. We had forensic evidence that pointed to Shipway as the bomb maker. I did not go into any detail. I simply said I had reason to believe that the explosion was an IRA explosion, and these 2 men could help in my inquiries.
Now, after the press conference and the interview with Mr. Dickens, and I believe there was another press conference the next day which he also attended, after that, when did you next have dealings with Mr. Dickens?
The following week, November the 16th, at 2:20 p.m. that day, I had a telephone call from him. I have a note of the conversation which I made at the time, my lord. Thank you, my lord. He asked for me by name. And when I answered the phone, he said, I am following up the bomb story. I said if there was anything new, we would let him know. But he said, I have got something for you. The IRA has denied responsibility. I said, who told you that? He said, I've talked to Finneran, and he says it wasn't him. I asked him how and when he had spoken to Finneran, but he refused to tell me. Well, at that point, I sent one of my detective sergeants around the TV centre to bring Dickens back, which he did. Dickens did come to my office, but he brought with him a solicitor, and he insisted on the solicitor being present during the whole of our discussion.
Do you have a note of what passed between you at that time?
Yes, I do. I was anxious to find out about all he had to say about the interview of his, but he was reluctant to say anything about it at all. Now, eventually, I had to warn him that unless he responded to the questions, I would charge him there and then. So at that point, he said yes. He had filmed an interview in Northern Ireland. He couldn't tell me where, just somewhere within 30 minutes' drive from the centre of Newry, where he had apparently gone in response to an anonymous telephone call, been blindfolded and then driven to the house where the interview took place. He denied knowing the name of the man he had interviewed, although he had told me earlier that it was Finneran. But when I showed him our photograph of the man, he failed to make a positive identification. I asked to see the film, my request was refused, I was simply told that the interview would be broadcast that evening on the news file programme. I then made arrangements to have the programme recorded.
Now, did Dickens give you any further help or information?
None at all, in spite of repeated requests.
Let me move on. You watched the television programme and made arrangements to have it recorded as it was broadcast. Was it helpful in your inquiries?
Oh, yes. I mean, we were able to identify Finneran from the recording. Now, if I had had that information earlier, I have no doubt we would have been able to arrest both Finneran and Shipway. Now, as it was, the information arrived far too late.
Thank you.
Apart from the solicitor, Mr. Crouchley, was anyone else present when you spoke to my client about his interview with this IRA man?
No, I saw him alone.
So we've only your word for what was said. And if their recollection differs from yours, the jury may choose to accept their version.
That's up to them. I'm giving you the facts.
As you see them.
As they happened.
Now, did Mr. Dickens tell you why he hadn't contacted the police earlier with this information?
Oh, yes, he said he'd been threatened with reprisals, but I pointed out to him that he had the right to ask for police protection at any stage, so it's not an excuse that makes any sense.
But he did give you a reason. Whatever you may have thought about it, he offered an explanation.
Well, if that's what you want to call it.
Now then, your request to see this film before it was edited and transmitted, I imagine this is not the first time the police have made such a request.
Oh, no, there have been several occasions when we're asked to see television film.
Yes. And has it not been a general policy on the part of the television companies to refuse any such request from the police?
They have been difficult about it in the past, yes. But this is completely different. I mean, there have been times, say in a public order case, where we might have thought it useful to see film that was shot of a demonstration or a strike picket or some such event, and we've been refused, yes. Because the TV people feel that it might prejudice their safety when filming in such situations. I mean, they might be thought to be acting on behalf of the police force. Now, I can see that point of view, but this is entirely different. We are talking about an interview with a known terrorist, a murderer. That is hardly the same thing.
And after Mr. Dickens had refused your request, did you take it higher? I mean, did you telephone his employers and repeat your request?
I did, both before the broadcast and afterwards. I wanted to see the bits of film that had been edited out.
And what was the reply?
Total lack of cooperation.
If my client had said, yes, you can see the film right away, what difference would it have made?
It would have saved us 2 or 3 hours, and that could have made a great deal of difference.
Really?
It could have made the difference between catching Finneran and missing him.
Ah, well, I shall be disputing that, Chief Superintendent. In fact, I want to suggest that there is no evidence to say that the man on the film is Gerard Finneran.
No, he changed his appearance, of course, but it was definitely the same man. He'd simply put on a wig and a pair of dark glasses.
The prosecution will be bringing further evidence on this point, my lord.
And the defence will dispute it, my lord. I'd like to know what evidence this witness has for saying that the man on the film was Gerard Finneran.
His face, his voice...
Oh, have you ever heard Finneran speak?
No, but I've spoken to people who have.
Oh, then your evidence is second-hand.
On that point, maybe.
So let me just go over this identification with you. A witness at the scene of the explosion gave you a description of a man who may have been involved, yes? And on that basis, you issue photographs of a man who fits that description and whom you have other reasons to suspect, yes?
Correct.
Yes. And then you see a film of a man with different hair, a voice you've never heard, his face in shadow and wearing dark glasses, and you conclude that he's the man that your witness described in the first place?
Now, hold on a minute. Dickens said he had spoken to Finneran. He said it.
Oh, I suggest that on the contrary, he said that he did not know that man's identity. He had never been told the man's name.
No. That was when the lawyer was present. But earlier on, at first, on the phone, he definitely said he had spoken to Finneran.
Are you sure of that?
Positive.
Well, now, Chief Superintendent, I don't know whether you're aware of this, but that telephone conversation on the afternoon of November the 16th was tape recorded by Mr. Dickens, and this is the tape recording. I would like to introduce it as an exhibit, my lord, and I would like to have the jury to hear it.
Have you heard this alleged tape recording, Mrs. Montgomery?
No, my lord, I've not.
Members of the jury, I'm going to have to ask you to be good enough to retire for a few moments so that we may consider the admissibility of this piece of evidence. Members of the jury, I've listened to a tape which purports to record a conversation between Mr. Mackenzie and the defendant, Mr. Dickens. And I have decided that you also should have an opportunity of hearing it. Mr. Golding?
Yes?
Hello, Mr. Mackenzie.
Speaking.
Good afternoon, sir. John Dickens, news file. I'm calling about the bomb inquiry. You remember I interviewed you the other day?
Oh, yes. There's nothing new I can give you on that. Keep in touch with the press office. If there's any developments, you'll be informed.
Now, hang on, sir. No, I've got something for you. I've spoken to someone who says it was not the IRA that was responsible.
Who told you that? Didn't come from me.
No, I've got an interview with an IRA spokesman, and he denies responsibility.
Who? Who have you got?
I can't say. What I'd like is a statement, some sort of reaction from you. Can you tell me how positive you are in the light of this denial? Are you 100% it was Finneran?
I know who's responsible, and so do you. You've had the names, Finneran and Shipway. They're both known to us. Now, who have you been talking to?
So can I say you're sticking with the IRA theory?
Certainly you can.
Thank you very much, sir. Goodbye.
Well, Mr. Mackenzie,
Yes?
do you accept that as a true recording of the conversation?
That's more or less the way I described it.
Except Mr. Dickens does not say that he's spoken to Finneran. He says he's spoken to somebody. He doesn't say who. And then he goes on to ask if you are still sure that Finneran is guilty.
Oh, well, maybe I misunderstood him, but it was definitely Finneran he interviewed.
In your opinion.
Dr. Massey, I understand you're a forensic scientist specializing in explosives.
That is so.
Were you involved in the Fulchester bomb inquiry last November?
Yes, I was asked to take charge of the technical side of the investigation, and I submitted several reports to DCS Mackenzie.
Can the witness be shown Exhibit 3? Are those copies of your reports on the inquiry?
Yes, they are.
Now, in a report timed at 0430 hours on November the 8th, that is just over 12 hours after the explosion, you wrote, "I am reasonably sure that the device was the work of Colin Shipway, alias Callum O'Shea." Now, your subsequent report gives your reasons, but the language is rather technical. Could you explain to the jury in simple terms why you're so sure?
Yes, I think so. Do you think you could pass me that cardboard box?
Exhibits 4 to 7, my lord. Various items found at the scene of the explosion.
Is this disputed at all?
No, my lord. We're not quite sure of the relevance of it.
The relevance of it, my lord, is to demonstrate that the explosion was caused by the IRA, and that the man Dickens interviewed was one of those responsible.
I see, yes. Carry on, Dr. Massey.
I should begin by explaining that I have in the past seen explosive devices that had been put together by Shipway. When the man went underground, that is to say, left his wife and children in Belfast and went on the run 3 years ago, the army found 2 partly built devices at his home. And I had also seen a device which had been defused and which was found to carry Shipway's fingerprints. So, I had seen 3 authenticated Shipways, if I may put it like that, as well as a number which had been attributed to him on various grounds. This one was identical with the others in 4 crucial respects. The first has to do with the timing device. Here it is. I don't know whether you can see how it works. The device is designed to be set off by an electric current from a battery. The final connection that sets it off is made when the hand of the watch moves round and touches the drawing pin. It's a crude mechanism, and now considered rather old-fashioned, but it usually works. Now, this is rather more ingenious. Can you see what it is? This is a reconstruction, by the way. The original was rather battered about by the bang, so I put this one together for demonstration purposes. It's a trembler fuse. As long as the tube remains upright, The pendulum hangs down inside, doesn't touch the sides, there's no contact. As soon as it tilts, even slightly, the metal touches the sides and bang. Very, very dangerous for the man who's placing the bomb. And in fact, it was this fuse, not the timing device, that set off this particular explosion. Someone picked up the bag. That was all it needed. Now, there is only one bomb maker who uses precisely this sort of gimmick, and his name is Colin Shipway. And he is also, as far as I know, the only one who has ever used this little refinement. Now, this is an arming switch with a difference. It came off a television set. It's a channel selector switch, and it has 7 positions. One of those positions is safe. The other 6 make the thing live. All the terminals are connected. One of the wires is a dummy. Once the bomb has been placed and the switch has been clicked a few times, you can see the problem. This again, common to all 3 of the known Shipway devices, and it turns up here as well. And lastly, a little thing, but it's as individual as handwriting. When most people are joining together 2 pieces of wire, they strip the ends, lay them side by side, and twist. Shipway does it quite differently. He splays the filaments, meshes them together, separates them into 2 little clumps, and twists each clump anti-clockwise. He's left-handed, you see. Until we put a name to him, we used to call him the left-handed bomber. These 4 clues together make me virtually certain that this device was his work.
Thank you, Dr. Massey.
I have no questions, my lord.
Thank you, Dr. Massey.
Detective Inspector Haig, you are an officer of the Royal Ulster Constabulary, which is the Northern Ireland Police Force, correct?
I am, yes.
In November last year, were you working at police headquarters in Belfast?
I was.
Were you asked to help with inquiries into an explosion here in Fulchester?
That's right. I was informed by my chief that the incident here was thought to be a provo job, and it was probably down to Finneran and Shipway. He asked me to liaise the Belfast end, as it was quite likely that they would both be over on our side of the water if they weren't picked up within the next 24 hours.
Now, were the names Finneran and Shipway known to you?
Well known, yes, for probably 7 or 8 years. They were both known IRA, but never convicted.
Let's move on to November the 16th. Did you receive a telephone call from Chief Superintendent Mackenzie, who was leading the investigation over here?
That's right. He phoned me to warn me about the news file piece. I told him that news file isn't shown in Northern Ireland, so he said he would send a cassette over on the plane. It was on my desk the following morning when I came into work. I got a machine in, and I watched it straight away.
It's at this point, my lord, I'd like to introduce the video recording in question, Exhibit 8.
Have you any objection to that, Mr. Golding?
No, my lord.
Are we supplied with the necessary equipment?
It has been arranged, my lord.
Nine days ago, a bomb went off in a bus station crowded with Saturday shoppers here in Fulchester. Mrs. Mary Glaister was standing close to the blast. She died in hospital 2 days later. 2 children were badly hurt. Ellie Truman, who's 12, has permanent damage to her lungs and to her hearing. David Sackfield, who was 7 only last Wednesday, is now off the critical list, but he's lost his right hand and the sight of his right eye. Well, since that happened, the police have been hunting for 2 known IRA terrorists, Gerard Finneran and Colin Shipway, and they've warned that a new campaign of indiscriminate bombing is underway on the mainland. Tonight, Newsfile presents information which suggests that the police may just have it wrong. Yesterday, in an exclusive interview to which I was taken blindfold, a provisional IRA spokesman denied responsibility for the Fulchester attack, but he went on to warn of a new campaign aimed at what he called military and political targets throughout Britain. The film you're about to see was shot less than 24 hours ago in a farmhouse somewhere near the Irish border. I can't be more precise than that because the film crew and I were driven there and back blindfold. Here, complete and unedited, is the interview we filmed. Will you tell me who you are?
I won't tell you my name. All you need to know is that I'm speaking to you on behalf of the provisional wing of the Irish Republican Army.
Can you prove that?
Do you want to argue about it?
Can I make it clear that we've been brought here blindfold? We've no idea where we are. We've no idea who you are.
You're here to take a message to the people of Britain. Simply to tell the British working people that our fight is not against them. The Irish Republican Army does not set out to hurt innocent people. We attack military and political targets as we are entitled to do under the rules of war. It may be that civilians are sometimes hurt in such attacks. We regret that. We doubly regret instances where children are harmed. But the British Army of occupation here is murdering men, women, and children every day. And it is utterly hypocritical of the British to...
What about the Fulchester attack only last week? A woman and 2 children. Would you describe a bus terminus as a military or political target?
That was not an IRA attack. I can state that categorically. It was an attempt to discredit the Republican cause and make propaganda against us at the expense of innocent lives. We had nothing to do with it.
Then who did plant the bomb in Fulchester? Do you know?
It wasn't the provisionals, and it wasn't any of the splinter groups. Not from the Republican side of the fence, anyway.
You're suggesting it was some sort of loyalist paramilitary organization? That's ridiculous.
I'm suggesting nothing. I'm telling you. It wasn't the boys. Now listen. I'm giving the people of Britain this warning. There will be more bombs in English towns. And they will be targeted on the military and political establishment. And they will go on until the British government changes its repressive and imperialist policies towards the 6 counties, withdraws the troops, and gives a firm commitment to Irish unity. Okay, that's it.
Well, that's as much as we were told. The police continue to insist that the Fulchester blast was an IRA attack. And if they're right, it may be that the terrorists intended to telephone a warning so that the bus station could be evacuated. If that was their intention, then they were too late. In the circumstances, it's not surprising, perhaps, that the denial of responsibility by the IRA is not being taken too seriously. But there's no doubt that this warning of renewed attacks on mainland targets will be taken very seriously indeed.
Inspector Haig, did you recognize the man who was interviewed in that film?
I did. That was Gerard Finneran.
Is there any doubt in your mind about that?
None at all.
Did you recognize the room in which the interview took place?
Yes, that is in South Armagh, on the A29, just south of Newton Hamilton. It's a farmhouse that is rented out for holidays.
How and when did you identify that house, Inspector?
It was on Saturday, November the 20th, during the course of a general search of the area. Now, one of my officers who had seen the video cassette recognised the layout of the room and the lamp on the table there.
Why were you searching in that area?
At about 10:30 that morning, Gerard Finneran was found lying in a ditch by the side of the road about half a mile away. His hands and his feet had been bound with insulating tape. He had been shot at close range in the back of the head.
The case of the Crown versus Dickens will continue tomorrow in the Crown Court. This man is an IRA terrorist. He was interviewed last November on Eastwood Television's Newsfile programme, an interview which led to the case before the Crown Court today. The journalist who filmed the interview, John Dickens, is the first person in Britain to be charged under Section 11 of the Prevention of Terrorism Act 1976. The charge is that he failed to pass on information that would have helped the police to arrest or convict a terrorist. Dickens pleads not guilty.
Detective Inspector Haig, you've told us that the first you knew of this television interview was the day of its transmission.
Yes, about 5 o'clock that afternoon, when I was rung up by Mr. Mackenzie.
And when was it you actually saw the programme?
Well, it would have been about 10:30 the following morning. As I say, the film had got to be sent over on the plane and then collected from the airport.
So that was what, about 36 hours after the interview took place? Suppose you had seen the film as soon as it had been obtained. Would it have been of help to you?
Well, of course it would. This was an interview with a wanted terrorist. Now, until we saw him on the film, we didn't even know that Finneran was back in Ulster. The film confirmed that, and it also gave us a very good idea about where we should start looking for him now. If we had had that 36-hour start, who knows? We might have captured the man. As it is, when we did find him, it was too late.
Yes. You've said that you found Finneran's body in a ditch. He'd been tied up and shot in the back of the head. Do you know why he was killed and by whom?
He was killed by his former comrades in the IRA. There is no real doubt about that. He was executed, as they would have it, for being an informer. Now, it is obvious that they thought that he was talking to the security forces, when in fact he was talking to this English journalist. And it isn't the first time they've made that mistake.
Let me ask you this, Inspector Haig. The man on the film was described as an IRA spokesman. You have identified him as an IRA terrorist. Do you also accept that he was also a spokesman of that organisation?
No, he was no higher than a sergeant. He wasn't a commander. He certainly wasn't clever enough or experienced enough to be allowed to speak for the provisionals. And in any case, the provisional statements always come from the Republican Press Centre. And every journalist knows that. Now, Finneran was a renegade. He had messed up a job over here. He had killed a woman and crippled 2 children, probably against orders. So, he set up this interview to try and take the heat off himself. Now, that was a foolish move, and it got him killed.
Thank you.
Inspector Haig, do you have any evidence to link this man, Gerard Finneran, with this bomb explosion in Fulchester on November the 7th?
Oh, well, I am not the officer in charge of that inquiry. I would need to be guided on that by Mr. Mackenzie.
Oh, so if he's wrong, and it wasn't Finneran who planted that bomb down the road, or if it wasn't Finneran on this videotape, then your whole theory falls to the ground, doesn't it? I suppose you're sure that the body you found was that of Finneran?
Quite sure.
But how do you know it was the same man as that on the film? I mean, he had face in shadow, wearing dark glasses, different hair.
All the same, I recognized him, the face and the voice. It was Finneran. It happens that he was a man that I know.
Oh, you recognize him, you say, because you knew him, not from the police photographs, the pictures issued to the paper.
No, I had met him a number of times.
Well, that's fortunate, isn't it? Because it would have been hard to recognize the man on that film from the man in these photographs, wouldn't it?
Well, yes, it would.
So, we've established that you've no evidence of your own linking Finneran with that Fulchester bombing. You've no evidence that my client recognized the man that he interviewed, and you accept that he probably wouldn't recognize the man from the police photographs, even if it was Finneran. Now, you've also stated that the man on the film was not, as he claimed, an IRA spokesman. Now, I suggest that you've no hard evidence for that statement either.
Well, it depends what you mean by hard evidence. Of course, it is circumstantial.
It's what? Hearsay? Rumour? Notes on files? Whispers from informers? A bit of theorising and deduction, that sort of thing?
A bit more than that.
Not much more, Inspector. Now, did you know, incidentally, that according to Republican sources in Belfast, Finneran was killed by, and I quote, a British Army plainclothes murder squad?
Oh, yes, I knew that. It is the sort of thing that they say.
Even when they're also saying that he was executed as an informer?
Oh, yes. They give one story to the papers and another one to the boys.
Why not admit that you don't know who shot Finneran or why?
I don't know, but I can make a pretty good guess.
Oh, we're not interested in guesses, Inspector. Now, this video recording, it came into your hands on November the 17th. Now, you played it and took note of what was said, and then what did you do?
Well, I phoned Mr. Mackenzie and I discussed it with him.
Oh, I'm sure you discussed it with all sorts of people, Inspector, but what did you actually do about it? What action did you take?
I talked about it with my chief.
Yes, you didn't do anything about it, though, did you? Because there was nothing you could do. My client had already helped you as much as he could. There was no way of knowing where that interview had taken place because the TV crew had been taken there blindfold. The film itself was no help to you at all, was it?
Well, that is not the point. I'm not saying that the film itself was a great deal of help or that it would have made an enormous difference if I had seen it a day earlier. No, what I am saying is that Dickens should have told us once he was in touch with the IRA. Now, whether he had contacted them or they got in touch with him, if he had let us know, then we could have taken appropriate action. And we might have caught and arrested the men who planted that bomb that killed that woman that injured those kids. Now, as it is, one of the bombers is dead, but the other one is still free, and he might be making a bomb at this very minute.
Oh, so what you're saying is that Mr. Dickens should have contacted you before he went to record that interview?
That's right.
Yes, because there was no use in him telling you about it afterwards, because there was nothing you could do about it.
Precisely.
And if my client could explain why he didn't contact the police beforehand, well, that would be fair enough, wouldn't it?
Oh, I'm not saying that.
Oh, you've said it, Inspector. In effect, that's exactly what you have just said.
You're Sally Hillmore. You're 17 years old and you live at 14 Newfield Close, Saunforth.
Yeah.
Speak up, Sally, so that we can all hear you.
Yes.
Were you in the Fulchester bus terminus on the afternoon of November the 7th last year?
When the bomb went off? Yes, I was.
And will you tell us what happened, just as you remember it?
Well, I was with my friend Christine and her sister Ellie. We'd been looking round the shops and we were waiting for the bus to go home for tea, the number 54. Anyway, I saw this fellow in the corner of the bus shelter fiddling about with something in his bag on the floor, sort of squatting down. And then he stood up and walked off, leaving the bag there. So I didn't say anything, but my friend Christine went after him and caught up with him and said, "Oh, you've left your bag." And he turned round and pushed her backwards and started running away. He just took off really fast. Anyway, I went to try and help get her up, and just then was when the bomb went off. I was knocked flat, and then I just lay there, and I was shaking, you know, and I couldn't hear anything. I thought I'd gone permanently deaf. And eventually the ambulance came and took us all off to the hospital.
Did you give the police a description of the man who left the bag?
Well, more or less. I told them what he was wearing and what the colour of his hair was and everything. And then they showed me these pictures, and I picked out the one that was just like him. And Mr... what's his name? The head one. He said that was the one because he was a known IRA man.
And was this the photograph you identified?
Yeah, that's right.
Gerard Patrick Finneran.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sally. Oh, if you'd stay there for a moment, because my friend might want to ask you some more about it.
Yeah. Now, Sally, do you remember how many photographs the police showed you altogether?
I don't know, about 12 or 15.
Mm-hmm. And when you chose that one, were you positive that he was the man you'd seen, or was he just the most likely one out of the 12?
Well, it was quite like him. It easily could have been him.
Yes, but couldn't it also have been someone else who happened to look rather similar?
Well, it could have been, yeah.
Yeah. You didn't hear the man speak at all?
No.
And then you only saw his face for a moment when he turned round and pushed your friend.
Well, I saw his face when he was fiddling in the bag, but I wasn't taking very much notice until he ran off.
And this was about 4:15 p.m. in the afternoon, at the beginning of November. Now, it would be starting to get dark about that time, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've got, like, fluorescent lights in the bus station. I could see all right.
Sally, now, have you seen the television programme that Mr. Dickens made about the bombing when he interviewed that IRA man?
Yeah, the policeman showed it me.
Yes. And were you able to identify the man who you saw in that interview as the man you'd actually seen at the bus station?
Well, on the television, he was wearing sunglasses and it was a bit shadowy. I couldn't be positive, but it probably was.
But you're not sure?
Not really.
Now, one final question. When was it exactly that you picked out Finneran's picture? I mean, was it on the day of the explosion or the following day?
It was the next day, in the morning, about 11 o'clock.
And did you know that by that time, Finneran had already been named by the police as one of their 2 suspects?
I'm sorry. I didn't know.
Oh, don't apologise, Sally. It's interesting, though, isn't it?
You're Winifred Carty, resident proprietor with your husband of the Osborne House Hotel in Pomeroy Road, Belfast.
I am, yes. Proprietor and manageress, and receptionist as well, actually. We're a very small concern, select, you know. We're a small, select family hotel, not a small, seedy commercial hotel. There's a great difference. But we are small, as I say, and select.
Yes. Now, do you recognise Mr. Dickens over there?
Oh, yes, he was with us last November. Now, I know what you're going to ask me, and I've got all the facts and figures written here. If only I can find my spectacles.
No, don't worry, Mrs. Carty. We have the originals of the documents in question. Exhibit 9. Can you identify them for us?
Oh, yes, that's my account book and some of our receipts. As you can see, we have our own headed paper. Osborne House in italic script at the top. Prop D and W Carty. W's for myself, D's for my husband, Donald.
Do you have a record in your bookings book when Mr. Dickens stayed with you?
Oh, yes, it's conveniently marked here with a little bookmark. Here we are. Arriving November 13th, departing November 16th, 3 single rooms with bath, paid in advance.
Does your book record when the booking was made?
Booking by phone November 10th. Now, they wanted the account sending to Eastwood Television, but I said not without proper confirmation of the booking in writing on headed notepaper. They said, well, a young girl it was, she said, suppose Mr. Dickens brings the letter with him? And I said, absolutely not. Postal booking should be done through the post. Otherwise, it's not truly postal. Well, she'd no answer to that.
Indeed. Now, those other pieces of paper, those are receipts, I believe.
Oh, yes, additional charges over and above the accommodation with continental breakfast provided. That is to say, the boiled egg and the grapefruit segments is extra, and then there was the room service, the telephone calls, and the morning newspapers.
Now, then, according to your records, how many telephone calls did Mr. Dickens make from his room?
8 calls altogether. 5 local and 3 to Fulchester.
And did you take any telephone messages for him?
Yes. One was from a Mr. Fahy. Now, F-A-H-E-Y. I remember that because he had to spell it for me. Irish name it is. Well, so's Carty, of course, come to that. He left a number to be called back at. But then there was another from a man who wouldn't leave his name. And when I said I could take a message, he just put the phone down. Very rude, uncalled for, you know. I told the policeman about that when they came to see me after there was all this to do. I said he sounded like a terrorist. This man, you know.
Now, did you have a conversation with Mr. Dickens about telephones?
Now, that's another thing I thought was very strange at the time. Now, this would be the Sunday morning. I put a call through to his room. Now, he couldn't have been on the phone more than a minute. No time at all, really. When he came galloping down the stairs and said to me, do you know where I could find a public phone box? I want to make a call. I said, there's a phone in your room, sir. Oh, there's one here I would let you use if you don't want to go upstairs again when you've only just come down. But he said, no, thanks, and went out, just like that. Well, I thought at the time that was very peculiar.
Now, on the night of November the 15th, that's to say the night before their departure, can you tell us what time Mr. Dickens and his colleagues came back to the hotel?
Oh, yes, yes, it was well after midnight, going on for 1 o'clock in the morning.
They were there overnight, and they didn't leave until 7 the next morning.
That's right.
Now, was there anything at all, as far as you could see, that could stop Mr. Dickens ringing the police at any time during those 6 hours?
But there wouldn't have been anybody on the telephone switchboard at that time.
No, but in an emergency. I mean, he could have asked you to put him through, couldn't he?
In an emergency? Oh, well, of course, yes. If it was serious.
Thank you, Mrs. Carty.
I've no questions, my lord.
That completes the case for the prosecution, my lord.
27 Grove Road, Fulchester.
Yes. And Mr. Roach, you are a news cameraman employed by Eastwood Television?
Correct, yeah.
Yes. Did you travel to Belfast with Mr. Dickens last November the 13th?
Yeah, there was myself and Wilf Alnwick, who was a sound recordist. He's not here today. He's had to go to India.
And what did Mr. Dickens tell you in advance about the purpose of the trip?
Oh, quick nip across, 3 days max, to see what we could pick up to tie in with the bombing story. Oh, they were doing a half-hour programme on the Monday. It was a matter of digging something out of the Northern Ireland angle. I don't think that he had anything specific in mind, other than to talk to Sean Fahey. Well, he's a journalist based in Belfast, does occasional things for telly.
Did you meet Mr. Fahey?
Oh, yes. We shot 2 pieces with him on the Saturday. One was a bit about security measures in the centre of Belfast. You know, the ban on parking, army checkpoints and all that. Could it happen on the mainland style of thing? Fairly soft stuff, really. And also a piece about his theories on the Fulchester bombing. More or less saying that it was out of character with the current IRA tactics. Then we knocked off, had a drink, got a bite to eat, and Sean went off to see if he could drum up something a bit harder for the Sunday.
Yes, go on.
What happened on the Sunday? Well, John gets his phone call from a fella who says he's a friend of a friend. He said, if we want to know the real story behind the Fulchester bombing, we were to put the gear in the car and drive to Newry on the main road, the A1, leaving Belfast at 12 o'clock exactly. He said we were to make sure we were alone, just the 3 of us, and they'd take it from there. Well, we couldn't figure out how they were going to make contact if we didn't have a meeting place or a number to ring. But that was the arrangement. Take it or leave it style of thing.
And did you go along with this arrangement?
I was dubious, quite honestly. I thought it was a bit iffy. I said to John, suppose we do make contact, and suppose it's a set-up. Well, they could take us to some remote Irish bog and drop us in. You know, 3 plops and we'd never be home for Christmas. Well, he said that he'd got a press card and they didn't shoot reporters. So off we go. Driving along the A1, no idea what to expect. We get past Banbridge and there's this dark blue Rover 3K behind us, giving it that. Well, he flashes us 3 or 4 times. And then he whips around in front of us and indicates for the next turn-off on the right. So we follow him. And we're off along the B roads, twisting and turning till we're miles from anywhere. Not another car in sight. And he pulls up. So we stop behind him. Well, there was no room to overtake. We were boxed in. 2 of them get out. Dark glasses, balaclavas, combat jackets, the full Monty. They get us out of the car, assume the position. You know, spread-eagled across the top of the car, and they do the body search. I'm thinking, aye, aye. As soon as I hear a gun being cocked, I'm going to run for it. I don't care. I'm not going to stand still for a bullet in the back of my neck, no way. You know? Well, it doesn't come to that, fortunately. They just said, put the gear in our car, which we did, and then they had these, like cushion covers, which they put over our heads and pull the strings tight around our necks. Couldn't see a blind thing, obviously. It was hard enough just breathing. Then they put us in the back of the Rover, and off we went. After about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, we stopped. And this guy says, which of you is Dickens? Which of you is Dickens? So John says, me, sir, or puts his hand up or whatever. And the guy says, right, you get out, and you 2 wait here. So there we are, sitting there, still with these bags on our heads, like 2 busted parking meters. And he's gone about 10 minutes. Well, you can imagine what it was like. We were just waiting for a bang and a splash. You know, the amazing vanishing TV crew. Then we get taken out of the car and marched inside this place. And finally, we get to take the bags off. And we're in this little house. Just these 2 guys in their fancy dress and us. Oh, and the gear, which they'd already fetched in out of the car. So I said to John, what's going on, do you know? He said, well, Perry, these gentlemen are from the IRA. I said, well, I didn't think they were St. John's Ambulance. He said, well, we're going to film an interview. I said, you're the boss. What are we going to do for light? Can we get these curtains open? The fella said, no, you'll have to manage with them shut. Well, fortunately, I'd got some fast film in the bag and a fairly fast lens, so I thought we could probably get a usable picture if we tweaked it a bit when we got it home.
Now, we've seen the film as it was transmitted. Did you actually shoot more than was used?
Oh, no, that was it. What you saw, the only editing was the reverse.
The reverse?
Yeah. Well, what you do when you film an interview like this is you keep the camera on the subject all the way through. And then when you're finished, you turn it around and point it at the reporter. And he asks his questions again and does a few noddies. Like reactions, nods and ums and ahs, in case you need them to cover up your edits later. In this case, we only used the one reverse, which was the question about the Fulchester bombing.
And then what happened?
Well, then it was bags back on the heads, chaps, and we're off again. They dumped us about half a mile from where we'd left the car and took off like Batman. So we got to Newry, which was a problem in itself. I mean, finding our way around all those little roads, and it was going dark by this time. Then we got a meal and drove back to Belfast. Got there about midnight.
Thank you, Mr. Roach.
You've told us you had a little debate amongst yourselves whether you should follow up this anonymous telephone call. I presume you were under no illusions. You knew you were dealing with a proscribed organization.
Well, we didn't know, but we had to assume it could be.
Quite. Now, did it occur to you at any time to call the police?
And tell them what? That we'd got this arrangement? Well, what could they do? I mean, they could have set up a roadblock, but they wouldn't know where to put it. Substitute one of us with a policeman. They'd have sussed him out right away and chopped all three of us. So what else could they do? They could have had a car following us, but then the guys wouldn't have made contact in the first place. Or they could have put a bleeper on our car, some sort of homing device. Well, we ditched our car out in the wilds. There was nothing they could have done, not without putting us in even more danger.
Are you an expert on police tactics, Mr. Roach?
No, and I'm not sure they are either. I'm an expert on staying alive. You need to be in my job.
Now, let me take up a remark you made in passing a few moments ago. You were talking about the difficult lighting conditions in the house. And you said you felt at the time that the picture might be improved by tweaking it a bit when you got home. Now, can you explain how such a process would work?
It's a thing you can do with reversal film. You put it on the telecine machine, and if it's underexposed, well, a lot of news film is underexposed, you can electronically regrade it. It's a technique called gamma correction. Well, it gives you a clearer picture.
Would such a treatment have made it easier to recognize the face of the man being shown on your film?
Well, I suppose it would, yeah.
But it can only be done with the original film. It can't be done with a video recording of the programme.
Oh, no. It has to be the original transparent film.
Which your colleagues refused to give to the police. Now, what time was it on that Sunday afternoon when you got back to your car?
I suppose about 4 o'clock.
Well, did it occur to any of you at that point to go to the police?
No, it didn't. And I can tell you why. These guys had our names and they had our addresses. They had them written down. And the last words the fella said to us when he dumped us out of the car and we took our blindfolds off, I mean, he said, "You can do what you like with the film, but wait until you get home. Because if you go to the army or the RUC, the boys will know about it and you won't have any families left to go back to." Now, I don't know about Wilf or John, but I believe the guy personally. I'm not a brave man. I don't want my name and address down on some IRA hit list. I don't want to have to look under my car every time I get in it. Or think about my wife getting a parcel that might blow her hands off. So I just did my job and kept my mouth shut. And I think that anybody else would have done the same.
The case of the Crown versus Dickens will be concluded in the Crown Court tomorrow. This man is a self-confessed member of the IRA. According to the police, his name is Gerard Finneran, and he's responsible for at least one fatal bombing on the British mainland. He was interviewed for Eastwood Television's Newsfile programme by John Dickens, who appears before the Crown Court today. John Dickens is charged under the Prevention of Terrorism Act with failing to pass on information that would have helped the police to arrest or convict a terrorist. It's the first prosecution under this section of the Act, which came into force in 1976. Dickens pleads not guilty.
I swear by mighty God that the evidence I shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You are John Dickens, and you live at Flat 4, Broom Lodge, Fulchester?
Yes.
You are 34 years old, and you are employed as a reporter by Eastwood Television?
That's right.
Yes. Now, how long have you been a journalist, Mr. Dickens?
16 years, 7 years on newspapers, 9 in television.
Yes. And is there a particular subject in which you specialise?
Yes, crime. Reporting it, not committing it. But I report every kind of story for the News Eastward magazine programme, as well as covering mainly crime and police matters for Newsfile.
I see. Now, will you explain to us how it came about that on November the 13th last year, you travelled with a camera crew to Belfast?
Yes, on the 7th of November, that would be the previous Saturday, as you know, there was a bomb explosion at a bus station down the road here, and 3 people were badly hurt, one of whom, an elderly woman, later died. At the editorial conference on the Tuesday, that would be the 10th, we decided we ought to do the following Monday's edition of Newsfile on the subject of terrorism, security, various issues raised by this very tragic local incident. There were 2 reporter-producers assigned to the programme. I was one, Sheila was the other. We were to work direct to the editor, Richard Holness. Sheila was to work locally and set up a studio discussion about the security implications of the bombing incident. So later in the programme, there was a discussion between 2 MPs, the Chief Constable, and a representative from the National Council of Civil Liberties on the question of, should the police have greater powers in dealing with terrorism? At what point does increased security become a threat to democracy? And that was the main thrust of the programme as we originally conceived it, and it was the bulk of the programme that was actually transmitted. Now, my part in all this was to be from the Northern Ireland angle, and there were 2 questions I wanted to get answered. First, what's it like to live in a city where this kind of incident is almost a daily occurrence, and what kind of security has to be imposed to deal with that situation? Secondly, why had the IRA now apparently switched to planting their bombs in the mainland and attacking soft targets, like crowds of ordinary shoppers in a bus station? Because if that was to be the pattern of future attacks, it created the worst kind of security problems. So that was the brief.
Thank you. Now, what steps did you take to fulfil that brief before you actually travelled to Belfast?
Well, I phoned some people over there, the Army, the RUC press office, and some local journalists, including Sean Fahey, who was actually hired to work with us on the programme.
Yes. And was it in your mind to actually contact anyone from the IRA?
Not at all. It wasn't until the Saturday that we even discussed the possibility. That was after we'd filmed an interview with Sean in which he made 2 points. Point 1, the Fulchester bomb was out of character, not only with the previous pattern of bombings up to that time, but with what the IRA had said it was going to do. Point 2, the IRA had not accepted responsibility for that incident as it had with other attacks. Well, that was when I said to Sean, look, can we get someone on behalf of the IRA who will say that? It's all very well you're saying it as a journalist, but it would carry more weight if it came from them. So he said he'd make some inquiries, and we left it there. That'll be about 5 o'clock on the Saturday evening.
Yes, and when did you hear from Mr. Fahey again?
Sunday morning, about 9:30. He rang me up, said he'd spoken to 1 or 2 people. He'd passed my name and phone number down the line as well, and I might just be getting a call. That was as much as he could do. Anyway, an hour later, there it was, a quick call from a man, who I guess was the character I later interviewed. He said he gave me a phone number. He told me to phone him back immediately on a safe line. So I dashed out to the nearest call box and I rang him. I imagine he was in a call box not very far away. It was a Belfast number anyway.
Yes. Now, do you remember exactly what he said?
Yes, I do. He said, "Is that John?" I said, "Yes. Who are you?" He said, "I'm a friend of yours. I can give you what you want to know about the bus station. Are you with me?" I said, "Well, how can I meet you?" He said, "Get in your car." It's a white Katina estate, right? I said, "Yes." He said, "Get in your car, drive to Newry on the main road, leave the hotel at 12 o'clock, noon, and we'll take it from there." And he put the phone down.
Yes. Mr. Roach has described the meeting that resulted, but tell me, Mr. Dickens, why did you not at that stage talk to the security forces?
To be honest, because no journalist in that situation would ever call the police, apart from the fact that I had nothing to give them, no name, no contact point. All I had was the number of a Belfast call box that was now empty. But even if I'd had the name and address of my IRA contact at that point, I would not have called the police. Because if people like me can't even talk to people like the IRA, then all we're ever going to get on Northern Ireland is half the story.
Yes. And so you were picked up along the road, taken to a remote spot, blindfolded and driven for a further distance to a house where the interview was to take place. Now, did you at any stage recognise either of the men that you were dealing with?
Absolutely not. It's also rubbish to suggest that the man in the film was Gerard Finneran.
Well, can you be absolutely sure of that?
Yes, I can. Because don't forget, I could see his face as clearly as I can see yours. The police only saw the film, which was deliberately shot to make the man unrecognisable. He was nothing like the police picture of Finneran. And the other guy was nothing like Shipway, incidentally.
I see. Now, in this interview, what were the ground rules? I mean, were you told what questions to ask, for example?
No, I wasn't, and I wouldn't have conducted the interview on that basis. I asked the hardest, most direct questions I could think of. I made it clear to the viewers the circumstances in which the interview was being filmed, and I went on with the interview till we were physically prevented from continuing. The guy actually stood up and put his hand over the lens of the camera. The only concession was to film the man in such a way that he couldn't be identified. I thought that was reasonable. It's certainly been done before in these situations. If we hadn't done that, he'd simply have worn a mask or tied a scarf around his face or something, so it was sensible to go along with him on that.
Yes. And how do you answer the charge that you were giving this man a platform for IRA propaganda?
I would say, look at the way I introduced the film, by spelling out the death and injuries caused by the Fulchester bomb. I would say, look at the way I handled the interview, how I interrupted him when he started going on about the British Army murdering people, how I expressed total disbelief at his claim that it wasn't an IRA attack. And I would say, look at the comments I made after the film, when I said that the denial of responsibility by the IRA was not being taken seriously, and I expressed the view that it was an IRA bomb, but that it had gone off sooner than they planned, so they didn't get time to telephone the bus station so that it could be evacuated.
Yes. And with the advantage of hindsight, do you still think it was right to record this interview and to do it in that way?
Yes, I do. With any story, if you were to start again from scratch, you would handle it slightly differently, but I still think it was right to do the interview and that I asked pretty much the right questions.
Yes. And if you personally think that this Fulchester bombing was an IRA attack, why do you think it was important to broadcast their denial of responsibility?
Because it's part of the story. It's a fact. It happened. They did deny responsibility. Once you start demanding that facts like that should be suppressed, or when journalists take it on themselves to suppress facts like that, you might as well go and live in Russia. The point of a free press, and a free television as well, is that it should be allowed to talk to anyone and to ask them anything and report the answers it's given.
And after the interview, was there any conversation with the two men, either in the car or after they dropped you off?
In the car, yes, there was a brief chat. I was trying to find out why the IRA hadn't issued a denial through their usual channels. I couldn't get much out of him. My personal impression was that they wanted to preserve deniability.
Deniability?
They wanted to cover themselves, so that if the police arrested someone for the bombing, and he turned out to be an IRA man, and he admitted it, well, then they could turn around and say that this guy I'd interviewed wasn't an official spokesman. That's only my guess, but it makes sense.
I see. And was there anything else said, then or after?
As Perry said, when they dropped us off, they tried to put the frighteners on a bit, too. Don't go to the police or else.
Or else what?
Oh, they'd shoot us, blow up our families, that sort of thing.
Oh, was that why you didn't approach the police until the following day when you got back to Fulchester?
No, the reason I didn't approach the police is quite simple. I had nothing to say to them.
Yes, but we've heard you did telephone Detective Chief Superintendent Mackenzie on that following Monday afternoon.
Yes, to get a reaction to the story. And by that time, I talked to Richard, the editor, and to the solicitor, and they'd advised me to contact the police, to give them the facts, really, to cover myself. So that's why I made that call, and why I kept a tape recording of it, which was fortunate, as it turned out.
Yes. And what happened after that?
Well, of course, all hell broke loose. This police car comes screaming round to the ETV building with its blue light flashing and its siren going. Two great uniformed coppers steam into reception saying, "Where's Dickens? Where's he hiding? We know he's here." Frightened the receptionist to death. So I went with them and I took the solicitor. I had a long talk with Mackenzie. I gave him the facts exactly as I've given them to you. And he said, well, we'll have to have this film. No pleased or perhaps about it. And as he well knows, the policy of ETV and of most other television companies is that you do not give untransmitted film to the police. You certainly don't give them your only copy.
No. And in the whole of this affair, Mr. Dickens, did you deviate in any significant way from the normal practices of television journalism?
No.
No. And were you at any stage criticised or reprimanded by the editor or your employers over the way you'd handled this story?
No, I was congratulated by the head of news on getting, quote, a nice little scoop, unquote.
Mr. Dickens, if the IRA did not set off that bomb that murdered Mrs. Glaister and maimed those two children, who did?
I've no idea.
Well, who could it have possibly been?
It could have been anyone.
Well, you say that. Having heard the forensic evidence, The evidence pointing unmistakably not just to the IRA, but to one specific IRA bomb maker, Colin Shipway.
It could have been him, acting for the IRA or as part of some breakaway group. Or it could have been anyone who knew how he made his bombs. That's logical.
Really? You still say it isn't necessarily the IRA?
All right, let me give you a scenario. That's not what I personally believe happened, but you'd have a hard time proving it wasn't true. Suppose the British Secret Service was running a dirty tricks campaign aimed at discrediting the IRA in the eyes of its American supporters. Suppose they decide to blow up a few women and children and make it look as if it's the IRA that had done it. Now, wouldn't they make a bomb in the style of a known IRA man like Shipway and then tip off the police that it was Shipway and his mate Finneran that had done it? And then, just to pursue this fairly crazy notion, suppose the plot started to become unstuck. Wouldn't they then murder Finneran and dump his body near the house where I did my interview, which gets rid of him and discredits me at the same time? Now, I don't for a moment think that's what actually happened. I still think it was an IRA bomb. But you try and prove that wasn't what happened.
That's preposterous.
I agree. But it's a theory I've heard argued quite seriously by a respected Irish journalist.
So, leaving aside these Secret Service fantasies, we're agreed, are we not, that the bombing in question was probably, almost certainly, the work of the IRA?
As far as we know. We're not detectives, of course. I'm only a journalist. You're only a lawyer.
That being the case, you nevertheless went out of your way to contact the terrorists. And then you gave them a virtual party political broadcast. Are you an IRA supporter?
Certainly not. I detest all political violence.
Oh, you surprise me. Consider some of the words that were used in your programme. The IRA does not set out to hurt innocent people. The British Army of Occupation is murdering men, women and children every day. The British government's repressive and imperialist policies. You went out of your way, Mr. Dickens, to put that sort of terrorist propaganda on 1 million television screens. Are you proud of yourself? Is that what you call unbiased journalism? The IRA doesn't hurt innocent people.
You know, what I actually said was the IRA does not set out to hurt innocent people. We all know that's propaganda, that it's a lie, in fact. But it's not my job as a reporter to decide whether or not a statement is true before I report it. I report statements that I think are important, not statements that I think are true.
Oh. Well, you, of course, deny that this man was Gerard Finneran.
I do.
Even though you've heard a senior Ulster policeman, Mr. Haig, make a positive identification from your film.
Yes, I think he has a vested interest in getting a conviction in this case, and he thinks a conviction is more likely if the jury believes that my interview was with the murderer himself. Not that that would make any moral difference.
Are you accusing Mr. Haig of perjury?
I'm saying the man was not Finneran.
Well, you would say that.
And he would say that it was.
How do you account for Finneran's body turning up not half a mile from where you did the interview? Please, don't tell us it was that Secret Service.
Well, there are two possibilities, aren't there? One is that he was hiding out near there, possibly with the people who did the interview, although I repeat, I did not meet him. And since he was living near there, he was killed near there. The second possibility is that his body was deliberately dumped there to link him with my interview and therefore discredited. As to who killed him, you can take your pick between the IRA, the Loyalist paramilitaries, the British Army, and, well, the British Secret Service, actually.
All this speculation is quite wild, Mrs. Montgomery, and extremely offensive to the British Army. Can we get back to the facts in this case, Mrs. Montgomery?
With relief, my lord. Now, you said to my learned friend, even if I had known the name and address of my IRA contact, I would not have called the police. Now, would that have been your attitude if you had known that the man was Gerard Finneran?
I don't know. That's a hypothetical question.
It's a very pertinent question. I suggest there's a good deal of evidence to the effect that it was Finneran. But I'm putting to you a very simple and straightforward moral issue. If you know where to find a wanted terrorist, would you or would you not contact the police?
It would depend on the circumstances.
Well, there's no more to be said, is there?
Mr. Holness, you are the editor of the Newsfile programme on Eastward Television. Was it your decision to send John Dickens to Northern Ireland last November?
Yes, it was.
Yes. And what were your instructions to him when he went?
I wanted him to bring back a film report which would contribute to that week's programme. It was called Soft Targets, Hard Choices, an examination of current IRA strategy and its security implications.
Yes. And did you ask him to interview an IRA spokesman?
No, I didn't ask him to try for an interview like that. I didn't even suggest the possibility. I regard it as very dangerous ground in all sorts of ways. But when he did bring back an interview, let's say I was not displeased.
Was there, in your view, a strong case for including in your programme an interview with an IRA man?
Oh, absolutely. Not as a platform for the terrorists, but to find out as much as we could about their plans and policies. It was central to the programme we were making.
Yes. And did Mr. Dickens, in the way he went about this, do anything of which you disapproved?
Oh, not as far as I know. He gave no undertakings to the interviewee, and he didn't sacrifice any of his professional independence in order to get the story. He played it very much according to the book, with one exception. He didn't refer upwards the decision to proceed with the interview. Now, in the circumstances, that is understandable. He had something like an hour in which to make a decision between fixing the contact and leaving the hotel. It was a Sunday morning. I was on the golf course at the time, and it would have taken him longer than he actually had available to get a decision. And if he had referred it to me, I would have had to refer it up to my boss. Now, I've no doubt, in fact, I've been assured that the decision in any case would have been to trust the judgment of the reporter concerned and to proceed.
Yes. And what did you think of the interview when you saw it?
I thought it was quite good.
Yes. And was it your decision that the film should not be given to the police?
Yes, I wasn't going to sacrifice the balance of the programme by giving them the film a couple of hours sooner. Once the programme had been transmitted, I was prepared to let them have it. In fact, I wasn't even asked for it, only for any bits that had been edited out of it. But as I told Mr. Mackenzie, there was no significant editing.
Thank you.
Do you instruct your reporters not to cooperate with the police?
No, it's understood they should cooperate as much as they can.
Let me ask you the question I asked Mr. Dickens when he was giving his evidence. If you knew where to find a wanted terrorist, wouldn't it be your duty to tell the police?
Yes, that would be your duty as a citizen, but if you were also a journalist, you could have an overriding duty not to tell the police. A duty to respect the confidence of your source, just as a doctor or a priest has a duty to respect certain confidences.
Even if that so-called source might go out the next day and murder more women and children.
Yes, quite possibly, even then.
You amaze me, Mr. Holmes. You truly amaze me.
Members of the jury, the case you are asked to decide is brought under Section 11 of the Prevention of Terrorism Act, 1976. It is a section which has not previously been tested in a court of law. This makes my job easier. I don't have to explain to you the legal precedents. But it makes your job harder. You have nothing to go on but your assessment of the facts of the case, the bare wording of the law, and your common sense. Now, Section 11 says that if a person has information which he knows or believes might be of material assistance in preventing an act of terrorism, or in apprehending or convicting a terrorist, and fails without reasonable excuse to inform the authorities without delay, he is guilty of an offence. Now, I should like to draw your attention particularly to two phrases in the wording of the law which are open to your interpretation. The first is of material assistance. Now, this means, I suppose, of real help. The information in question must be information that would really have helped the police, not just information the police would have liked to know as a matter of interest. We're talking about vital information, which might have helped to catch a wanted terrorist, or might have helped towards his conviction in court. You have to decide whether Mr. Dickens had that sort of information, or believed he had it, and failed to pass it on. The second phrase I want you to consider is without reasonable excuse. Well, you've heard a number of excuses, a number of explanations as to why Mr. Dickens did not contact the police right away. It is for you to decide whether those excuses are reasonable ones. But I don't want you to be obsessed in your deliberations by the precise wording of the law. It's more important that you arrive at a decision which expresses the common sense of the British people who you represent here today. Now, it seems to me that the central argument in this case is between two views of what journalism is. At one extreme is the view that all journalism is propaganda, that we can't be impartial in our dealings with terrorism, that talking to the enemy is a tantamount to treason. And at the other extreme is the argument that you heard from Mr. Holness, that the journalist is in a sense different from the ordinary citizen, that he's in a separate category, like a doctor or a priest, that his duty is to be aloof from the conflict, to protect his sources, to talk to terrorists and victims alike, that this duty overrides his duty to help the police. Well, members of the jury, I must tell you that the law does not recognize any such journalistic privilege, and reporters have been sent to prison before today for refusing to divulge their confidential sources. Members of the jury, the decision is yours. I won't add to your burden by telling you to consider the effect that your verdict may have on the future application of the law. It's enough that you should consider the facts of the case before you. Now, will you please retire, elect a foreman to speak for you, and consider your verdict.
All stand. Members of the jury, will your foreman please stand? Just answer this question, yes or no. Have you reached a verdict upon which you are all agreed?
Yes.
Do you find the defendant, John Dickens, guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Mr. Dickens, the jury has agreed that you did not infringe the letter of the law when you sought out this man from the IRA, whoever he was. I expect that was a wise decision on their part. It would not be agreeable to have to sentence a man who has clearly acted more out of a sense of professional duty than for personal gain. The law customarily allows the innocent citizen to claim the costs of defending this innocence. But in this case, Mr. Dickens, you put your duties as a reporter above your duties as a citizen. Reporters must expect to pay for their scoops. If you are to be allowed the privilege that are denied the ordinary citizen, I shall exercise my own privilege and make no award as to costs. You may leave the court.